right, so I'm going to call the meeting to order. Please stand and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, folks, this is the Rutland Town Select Board meeting. It's our regular meeting, Tuesday, August 17th, 2021. We have in-person Select Board members Don Chaffee, Sharon Russell, and Mary Ashcroft, and we have on the phone Joe DiNardo and John Paul Fagnant. So we have a full house tonight. We are going to start with the approval of orders, and I do want to point out something that our town clerk and our administrative assistant to the select board pointed out to me. We have in the orders request from Fuller Sand and Gravel for paving, and you might want to write this down. The amount requested is $584,105 and some change, so that's $584,105. I had Bill check our bid for this work. This is the paving work that was done. The bid is $571,603. Again, $571,603. And by my math, that is $12,502 over bid, what's being requested to be paid. So with the concurrence of Byron Hathaway is not, our road commissioner won't be attending tonight. He did leave a report. I'd like to talk with him about this. I suspect others on the board might want to as well. So if it is agreeable to all, I would like to strike out the portion of the orders that relates to the payment to Fuller Sand and Gravel and take a look at it before our next select board meeting. Anyone?
Well, what about issuing a draft for the undisputed amount for the bid amount so that, you know, Fuller's not getting jammed up for another 2 weeks? Did Byron say?
Okay, is that a motion, JP?
Sure, I'll put that in the form of a motion.
You want to second it, Don?
Yeah, I'll second it. I think
Okay.
that's appropriate. I was going to mention the same thing. We can
Good.
pay what was bid and take the rest up with Byron at a later date.
Okay, so the amount then of the bid is $571,603. And I am making that change on the orders. All in favor of approving that amount in the orders, please say aye.
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 Aye. Aye.
Aye, okay. So with that change, I'm going to circulate that for signature. Thank you all. That was a good resolution. And the orders will be in here. And you can sign them when you stop by the office. Next is the approval of select board minutes for the August 3rd meeting.
Move to
Present,
approve.
Second.
motion's been made by JP, seconded by Sharon to approve the minutes. Any additions, corrections, deletions?
There's some grammatical omissions. Do you want those or do we just leave it? I mean, they don't affect the accuracy really,
Okay.
but I just don't know how correct you want them. On page 5, Bill, just so you know, on page 5 up at the top, Officer Skirmahorn has been doing a great job on patrol. She will be, I
At,
think it's at a future meeting.
okay.
Just left out the word at, that's all. And there was one more here somewhere. I caught it. I guess not. At least I don't have it marked.
Okay,
It's not a big deal.
motion's made and seconded, and with that one addition on page 5. All those in favor of approving the minutes, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone
I'll abstain,
opposed?
Mary.
Yep, Joe is absent. Thank you. Okay. All right. We are at the portion of the meeting where we invite any member of the public who is not already on the agenda or participating on an item on the agenda to speak up if they would like to be heard. Do we have any member of the public who would like to be heard? Looking at the, not seeing that anyone is, so we'll proceed along. Just to, well, let me ask this, select board members, anything that we need to take out of order? Okay, we're going to proceed along then. Ed Dumas, Town Police Chief. Hey, Chief.
Good evening.
Hi, Ed.
How's it going? So last time we had about, I think it was approximately 32 calls for service in the last 2-week period. Things have calmed down quite a bit in the Green Mountain Plaza area.
Good.
Things have started picking up around the Diamond Run Mall with issues with car parts stolen, people parking stuff up there. Also, I know there's some wood in front of one of the buildings up there that was concerned for the fire department. Chris more about that. And I think well, I know you guys are going to talk about that earlier, but that's for later. That's all I have at this point in time.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Well, good that the calls to the Green Mountain Plaza are down. Not so good about the Diamond Run Mall.
Yes.
We do have a meeting and we've got a letter that we're going to be discussing later.
Yep.
To invite the management of the Diamond Run Mall to come into our next select board meeting. So we will do that when we get through the agenda. Select board members, do you have any questions or comments of our town police chief?
Mary, I do. I'd like to get some information, and I don't know who's would be, whether it's a highway issue or a police issue, about getting some no passing zone signs put up on North Grove Street at the intersection of North Grove and McKinley Avenue. And I don't know what direction, whose jurisdiction that falls under, highway or police.
I'm
That's
not opposed to it, and Byron would be the one that would put the signs up.
Did you hear that, Joe?
Okay. Yeah, I did,
Okay.
because to the best of my knowledge, Ed, it's still unlawful or illegal to pass in an intersection. Is that correct?
It is.
Okay. We had a couple of real near misses there this last week or the week before when we were haying. And I'll go into more depth when I find who to talk to about it. But I was wondering if that might help maybe at least warn people that they shouldn't pass in an intersection.
Yeah. Good.
Understood.
Well, to
Okay,
follow up
thanks.
on that, Joe, and I'm glad you brought it up. It isn't just parking in the intersection, but it seems to be fashionable for some people, and I don't know who they are. I've seen a number of cars, different cars there at different times parked along the edge of McKinley, facing up the hill. Apparently they're either walkers or joggers or bicyclers, and they pull off on the side of the road, but they're still in the travel, their left wheels are in the travel portion of the highway. I mean, there's not enough room to park there off the road, so they're actually in the travel portion of the road, just up McKinley from Grove.
On McKinley?
Yeah, the
dead intersection?
issue that we're having, Don, is the issue I've been having is the passing of mostly our tractors or farm machinery, occasionally a slow moving vehicle. People can't wait to get through the intersection and they pass. And we almost had a head on collision there between a car and a tractor 2 weeks ago because somebody couldn't wait and they were passing in that intersection. So it's not, I wasn't discussing the parking, which is an issue too, but this is motorists that want to pass in that intersection because they just can't wait 2 seconds. But anyway,
if you put up a no
Thank you,
parking
Manny.
sign, there's no parking this side of the road or whatever, I can do something about that. We can tow the cars.
Okay.
But if there's not posted, then I can't. On the highway, if you're there, I think it's more than 4 hours, we can tow your car off the side of the highway, not like an interstate. But on a side road, I think it's probably the same law applies to that also. I'm not positive.
Yeah, it's not
Posted
always-
as no parking anytime, then I have the authority to do something about that.
Yeah, like it is up top by the circle.
Right.
Well, there's that pampas grass has grown up, so you can't even see the dead end sign or the other sign, the speed sign.
Yeah.
I mean, it's totally obliterating the signs there, and I don't know.
Grass.
I think, I don't know if we're gonna get back on the mowing schedule, but McKinley's looking pretty rough going up the side. I mean, here it is August and we haven't gotten even one mowing yet, so.
I don't
You
know.
haven't been mowed the first time?
No, just the main roads were, but the side roads weren't. I mean, from Grove Street up all the way up is pretty ragged looking. There's as a matter of fact, there's a lot of ragweed and what do you call it? Wild asparagus or whatever.
There is a
Poison
note,
parsnip.
Pardon
the
me?
poison parsnip.
Yeah, parsnip,
Ugh,
that's what it is.
Bad stuff. Byron's report, I'll go over more of it, but the one thing he did say here, roadside mowing has started again. A thorough mowing of all streets will be done this time. Should take about 3 weeks to complete. So mowing's back underway.
Yeah. Unfortunately, Mary, that the parsnip wasn't killed before it went to seed.
I
So
know.
we start the 4-year cycle over again now.
I know.
That's how long it. Yeah.
I
So
was gonna say Byron
that's-
did have some equipment
yeah,
down. He had to order parts, and of course, parts are difficult to come by right now, but he
Right.
did get everything up and running again.
So Ed, to follow up on the Skirmahorn, are you inviting her in for like next meeting or?
I will. It was totally my fault. I just
Okay,
forgot about it. So
Good, thank you.
I will send her a note this time. So sorry
Right.
about that.
well, it'll be a prettier presence than you. That's
Yes,
all.
yes. Are we done? With
Thank
me?
you.
Well, I don't know, is
You're
any
pretty
other
fun.
select board comments or questions? Now you're done. Thank
Okay.
you.
thank God.
Chris- Thank you. Chris Clark, Town Fire Chief.
How you doing?
Well, how are you?
Good. A couple things. We've had 7 fire calls in the last 2 weeks since our last meeting. Couple trucks right now are at that parade for the 175th anniversary for the fair.
Yeah.
So a couple guys went and did that. Tomorrow night, we're gonna do some extrication training, cutting up cars with our new tools. Yesterday and today was hose testing. 11 hours they spent there on Monday and 7 hours today. And we lost 4 lengths of 5-inch. So we'll have to buy some more hose.
Okay.
But that stuff's original. It's like 20 years old. So
Is hose available these days?
I hope so. I'm not sure. I haven't called yet.
Oh, okay.
This Sunday we're doing pump testing with the 3 engines we have currently. And the last thing, I'm just bringing this up because you guys got a million of these air conditioners, but Center Rutland, they died. So they're coming to fix it on Thursday. But they told me that we never filled out the warranty card when they were brand new. So I know you have them here and at the transfer station. So you might want to look into
Yeah.
seeing if you got the warranty card. 'Cause that got forgotten about, I guess.
I'm not. JP, is that always a precondition?
What's that now?
Is it always a precondition that you have to fill out a warranty card? I thought warranties just traveled
Yeah, me too.
with the time.
That seems like a pretty chintzy avoidance.
There's a 1-year warranty on everything. If you fill out the card, you get 7. Same with the boiler.
All right.
Yeah, I'd have to look at the language.
Okay.
Wouldn't they be out of warranty anyway, because the station was built in the summer of 13 and we took possession in January of 14, so they're probably out of warranty any way you look at it.
He told me they weren't, but we're not getting a warranty
They
anyway.
weren't?
So it doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
All right. So department heads, if you have anything that is newish, please check your warranties and fill out your warranty cards if you haven't done so. Thank you.
That's all I got.
Okay. Any questions of the select board for our town fire chief?
Engine 3, Chris, any movement on that leaving or anything?
The old one, I
Yeah.
haven't got I haven't got any calls on it yet. So it's just sitting in the station.
Okay. Just taking up space.
Taking up space. Yep.
Yeah. Have you advertised it somewhere or tried to get the word out?
I believe so. Billy
Okay.
wrote something up.
Okay. Did we get any nibbles, Bill? Where do we post it? Okay.
Just a thought, Chris, and you might want to do this. I'd reach out to our dingy machine over there in New Hampshire. They might want that truck for parts. It's possible.
Okay. All right.
Larry might be interested. Yeah, he might be interested in it. And
Okay.
and they're close. That's the only thing I could think of if nobody else. You know, that's such a unique piece of equipment that you got to find the right person to want it.
All right. I'll give him a call.
Okay. Thanks, chief.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
your time. All right, Carrie Clark, town clerk and treasurer.
Hi,
Good evening.
Carrie,
three things. We'll start with the first thing. That's good news. We received our ARPA fund. We received, I'm going to assume half of the total amount. We have about $215,342
That sounds just about right. Mhm.
that came in. So that's here. And I've spoken or sent an email to Andrew, and we will take care of what we need to do with that money to set it aside in the proper way.
Road check.
Talk a little more tomorrow. What was that?
JP? No, guess not. All right. Well, that's good
somebody
news.
burp or what?
Yes, it was JP.
Second thing is the taxes are out. People are paying. Due date is the 10th as a reminder. And any questions, do call the office. If you're wondering, especially about homestead and state payments, I've been getting a lot of phone calls about that, and I'll just put it out there. Any questions, call me, but make sure that you filed your homestead before you call me, because if you're not seeing it on there and you didn't file, then you have to file, and then I can help you. So that's the second thing, and the third thing is Mark Kirk from the COT system, which is the digital records. He did email me a quote for their company. Just putting it out there. If anyone wants to look at it, I would be happy to send that or make copies to all the board members just to look to see what at least one company looks like.
Okay. And are we reaching out to other companies?
I'd like to, yes, absolutely.
Okay. So why don't you put that in your, or give it to Bill for our packet next time around so we have a feeling for what the price might be.
Sure.
Okay, thank you.
Is that something that, so I'll give it to all of the board members. Is that a building committee item, or is that start with the select board kind of thing?
Be capital or
I'm thinking it's possible ARPA because ARPA funds were used before.
No, but which committee? She was
Oh, I don't
asking.
know.
Do you have it digitally or you just have paper?
I have a digital copy, absolutely.
Oh, good. Well, ship it on and,
I
you
certainly
know,
will.
we can, it's the easiest way to look at it. How does it look to you?
I was not scared by the price at all.
Well,
I thought-
okay.
I
Well, how much was it, by the way? All right.
I was expecting a lot more actually. But I think if you look at all those parts and pieces together, it's gonna be maybe between 30 to 40.
Okay.
But that's, and if I'm off a little bit, I apologize. I didn't really sit there and do the math, but that's all of our records.
Okay.
That's a big deal. And then we don't have to do all of our records right now
Right.
if we don't want to. If we do part, it's like 20.
Okay. All right.
And then there's a maintenance cost in there as
Yeah,
well.
I believe so. Yep.
Oh.
I'd be happy to
Alright.
ship that to you. But obviously, this is with one company and this is an idea. I'm not saying that this is something we have to do, but I thought that since I have it, you guys should see it.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
Nice.
Okay. Anything else? 3 good things. Thank you.
So,
Thank you, folks who are already stepping up to pay your taxes. We appreciate it. Just a reminder that the general fund is 0, or it doesn't even show on the tax bill, I think, because the 1% tax covers all of the general fund, and then part of the police budget is covered by the 1% tax as well. So a couple of things that,
And more of it will be next year as well.
yeah. Okay. Any questions for Carrie Clark, our town clerk and treasurer?
I was wondering, Carrie, I was going to mention it to Bill, but I think it might be, well, I don't know whether it would fall under the treasurer's role or not, to make sure, and I want to put this on the record so that we have it on the record, to make sure that Tractor Supply or that Harbor Freight is definitely notified and acknowledges that their computers and that their registers are programmed for the 1%. Because we've missed a lot of funds in past years by chain stores that they just don't understand that the town has a 1% option tax.
between Bill and myself, we can figure out what we need to do if it needs to be done. Do we know when they're opening up?
Well, the reason I'm mentioning it is that I heard from another source that the opening is fairly imminent. They do plan to open by the end of August, and that's not very long from
Yeah.
now,
Okay.
within the next couple of weeks anyway. And so that's why I wanted to make sure that they're on board with the 1%.
Good.
We can follow through and just give them a little reminder.
Yes, thank you. Thanks, Don. Yes.
Thank you, Carrie.
Mhm, absolutely.
Any other questions or comments for the town clerk? If not, thank you very much.
Welcome.
All right. Byron Hathaway is not here. He did leave a brief report. I will go over it quickly. Gleason Road is closed for culvert replacement project until sometime next week. Sidewalks at school are done and the topsoil work will be completed in a day or so. Shoulder work will be completed by the end of next week. I've mentioned roadside mowing. Crosswalks, stop bars, and striping will be done as weather permits. We will start this when shoulder work is completed. I recommend signing the project acceptance form for the post road sidewalk. A pressure recorder has been installed on the end of the line on Post Road and will be removed at the end of this week. Robert Clark feels that there is enough pressure there to accomplish the water line extension. The recorder will confirm this. In any case, the water line and the sidewalk could be a dual project at the same time. Therefore, I recommend signing the project acceptance form. So which one is that?
Move to approve.
JP's moved to approve the project acceptance form. Is there a second?
Second.
And Sharon is seconding. Bill, do we have it in the folder?
Yep, it's B.
This is, no, it's very short. Okay. Are there copies for the members?
It should have been, it's in the packet.
Okay, very good. And does your motion, JP and Sharon, contain authorizing me to sign on behalf of the select board?
It does.
Thank you. Any discussion? If not, all in favor, please say aye.
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 Okay, the ayes have it, and I'm signing now. Okay, Bill, you're going to fill in the rest of it? Thank you very much. Okay, and that takes care of that. One last item from Byron, the blow off at the end of Post Road water line does not drain back properly. I would like to contact the city about repairs to the blow off. If they don't want to fix it, then we should look at other options to have it replaced or repaired. So I think that's just, any objection to him talking with the city?
No.
Okay. And that's what we have from Byron. I can't answer any questions because he's not here. Next, Mike Rowe, Town Rec Director.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Well, I guess I'm the bad news guy.
Well, it was bound to happen, right?
Yeah, I know, right? So our closing date for the pool is the 29th at 2:00, which is 2 Sundays from now. This past week we had some issues with our.
Mike, excuse me. Could you just turn the microphone so to make sure you're being recorded?
Not loud enough as it is. Wow. My
There
kids
you
will let
go.
you know that's not true. So the pool, I noticed the motor wasn't sounding very well towards the end of last week, and Allen's came down, and I also brought our plumber in just to verify, and the motor for the pump for the pool is not there now because Allen's has done a really good job, and a local repair shop is in the process of fixing it tomorrow. So the pool is closed tomorrow, and then hopefully we'll be back up on Thursday. So one thing I can't lose at the pool, and there's only one of them, they can't find a replacement motor, which is really no big surprise with
Is that
everything
a
that's
10
going
or a
on.
15?
That is a 15. So that will be part of the process. It'll be a rebuild, and then we'll talk in committee about going forward, maybe purchasing a new one and having that on hand. We do have 2 pumps already there. They're old, excuse me, not pumps, motors that are there. I don't know if people have a need for a motor. They're good anchors. They both work. So I don't know if anybody has a need for that, or if you want me to do something about that. They're just taking up space. They're from a long time ago. So I can talk to Byron. He's pretty good about finding people that might want them. They're in pretty good shape. So I think they're actually brand new.
Why
They're just
don't
really
we-
old.
Why don't we use the same theory that the fire department's using by asking Turner? He's doing a rebuild on it. Ask him if he could use those, and
I'll ask him. I have no problem with that.
because he's given you good service. I mean,
Yeah, he basically dropped everything to fix ours so that we can get back into service. So that's been a huge help. And I can't thank them enough. So hopefully we're back up on Thursday. They pulled it out this afternoon, brought it down there tonight, and he said he would work on it tomorrow.
Okay.
So
good.
hopefully we can get back up and running, and we'll be good to go.
All right. So
I'll-
close to the end.
I know, right? But at least we know now, and we can plan for that. Our grant intent letter went out last week, thanks to Mary Beth Poley for help with that. So we should know.
Mhm.
Huh? Okay.
Thank you.
So we should know by the end of September if we are allowed to go to the next step. If we don't know, then we're done.
Okay.
And then we've talked in committee about potentially moving forward with some of the plans anyway, but that's at a later date. Hopefully we get accepted and we can move to the next step.
Okay.
Other than that, soccer is starting. It's not too late. Billy redid our registration forms. People can fill them out online, or they can swing by town hall and fill out their soccer forms. So please go ahead and do that, because everything is coming around real quick here for the fall. So other than that, I don't have much, unless anybody has any questions for me.
Okay. Any
I
select
have
board
one.
questions? Yep,
I have one, Mary.
go ahead.
Mike, the motors that you have up there that you don't, what is the issue? Do they not fit the new pumps, or are they not big enough? What were those motors for?
Well, when one was a replacement for the original one, which we just had, it was in the basement here forever, and now it's up at the pool. We had a second motor that was there for some reason, and when we put in the new pump and filters about 12 years ago, whatever it was, they couldn't use that motor for whatever reason, the way that it didn't fit. So we got a new motor that came with our whole new system, with our filter basket and our pumps and all that. So that's why in the beginning it wasn't going to work. So we had to go with a different motor. So now we're not stuck, but if we want to replace it, we have to replace it with the same type of motor, which they couldn't find in the United States.
Yeah, that's probably the way the pump mounts to the motor. They're not interchangeable. I was just wondering why we had two motors and they wouldn't work. But you explained.
One was from the original. One was from the original. It's quite large, and then the other one, it's always been there. And when we did do the switch over, I asked, I'm like, well, I got a pump right here. I mean, a motor right here, and they're like, no, it won't work with the system that we had. So we did try that route many years ago, but now I just have two engines or motors. So
Any department heads need a motor?
yeah, if you guys need one, I
You
mean,
know where they
that's a
are.
good idea. I'll talk to Turner and see, because they're literally anchors at this point, which is ironic at the pool. And to answer your question, I do have, hopefully on Saturday, we talked about the pool and the cracks in the pool. I have somebody coming on Saturday to see if we can determine where, or if we have leaks or what the status is. So I should have a better idea next week. I just actually talked to him yesterday, and the person that does it does hotel pools and commercial pools as well. So I'm feeling pretty confident.
I would suggest when you talk to Turner about those motors, if he's not interested in them himself, if you could ask him if he could give you a roundabout as to the value of those motors, because he would know.
Yes.
And then we'll have an idea of what we're going to do with them.
Yeah.
If we can't use them there, we might as well, somebody might as well have the use of them. We might as well have the money and put it in your fund.
Okay, that's all I got.
Okay,
Anything?
thank you.
All right,
Very
thank
much,
you.
Mike.
Appreciate it. All right, next up, Barbara Noyes Pulling.
Mary, point of order.
Oh, right, thank you. Joe, with your point of order, go ahead.
It's we're supposed to have a hearing, I believe, at 6:30.
Yep, Bill just reminded
Yep.
me, so.
Okay, I was reading ahead.
Yeah, Chrissy Haskins is on the call. She's
Okay. This is we will recess our select board meeting briefly and go into the public concern hearing for the Route 7 North scoping study. Chrissy Haskins is on the line, and this is the Dufresne Group, and it's 6:30. So
Motion to recess.
motion's made.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. All in favor of recessing for the purpose of doing this public concern hearing, please say aye.
Aye.
All right.
Okay. So we're in the public hearing. So Chrissy, would you assist us on what we should be doing here?
Sure. So I have a short presentation. And I think I just shared my screen, so hopefully you can see that.
We're seeing it. Thank you.
Okay. And so I will just go through this quick. And then the main purpose of this meeting, this public meeting, is to obtain community input on existing concerns and issues related to bicycle and pedestrian traffic within the Route 7 study area. So this is for the Route 7 sidewalk scoping study. The study area is on Route 7 from the town city boundary. It's approximately at the Comcast Xfinity building, just south of Lincoln Ave, to the Post Road intersection. But that is our study area. We had a kickoff meeting, and the project committee provided some input on the purpose and goals of the project. The focus of this project is to increase safety for pedestrians and bicycles throughout the study area. Based on the presence of a footpath through the study area, there is a high volume of pedestrian activity along this section of Route 7. And as there are no sidewalk facilities, pedestrians who need to walk along the road shoulder or in the grass just off the curb line. North of McKinley Avenue, their paved shoulder widens to the on the west side of the road there, and it appears most people will actually walk on the outside of the guardrail just based on where the footpath goes. There is an existing sidewalk on Post Road, but there is no pedestrian crossing at the light, and there's no pedestrian signal at the light either. The goal is to increase the safety for existing pedestrian users and bicycles, and to improve connectivity between the city's sidewalk network and the Post Road sidewalk. We've done an evaluation of the project's site, the study area, and came up with some environmental constraints, environmental features that are there. There is a mapped class 2 wetland in proximity to Route 7, north of McKinley Avenue. That's that kind of yellowish shaded color there in the map. Based on land uses and characteristics of the area, it is not expected that the wetlands would be directly impacted by a sidewalk, as long as it's possible to utilize the wide shoulder to create one. If V-Trans doesn't allow that, then a new sidewalk could potentially impact the wetland. And we will further evaluate that as we move through this study. The study area north of McKinley Avenue is also in a floodplain due to the East Creek and another stream that crosses Route 7. That's that red shading area on the map. So floodplains are typically not an issue for minor sidewalk projects, as we don't usually significantly change elevation. There are no endangered species in the study area. There are a couple hazardous waste sites and brownfields adjacent to the study area. Those are the yellow diamonds that are down towards the lower end of the figure. These are typically not an issue for sidewalk projects. And then the figure to the right, all that blue kind of mottled shading, that's what's called urban soil background area. This is a fairly new thing that the state has developed. And these soils are, the state basically anticipates that these soils are contaminated because they're located within a downtown area. And so these soils either need to be used on site or on a different site within the same urban background soil area, or disposed of as contaminated soils. So as we move through the study, we will provide an analysis of the quantity of soil that might need to be handled in a sidewalk project. So that was all we came up with for environmental constraints. At this point, we are doing a historic and archaeological review of the study area. So that is in progress. And we are also looking at right-of-way so that we can determine right-of-way impacts when we get to the alternatives phase. we will have that information for you at the next meeting. So what to expect moving forward. After this meeting, we're going to begin working on developing alternatives that satisfy the project purpose and goals. We anticipate holding another public meeting in mid to late October to present the alternatives. And then there'll be a third public meeting, which is anticipated for January of 2022 to present the final study. And that will include further conceptual development of the preferred alternative, total project cost estimates, and a schedule for moving forward. Assuming that at the alternatives presentation, the board endorses a project, an alternative that involves moving forward. We will be evaluating a no build option that is required as part of these studies. And so you can choose the no build option and not move forward with any type of project. So depending on the funding sources, this can be beyond the study. This, if you do move forward with a project, it can be a long process. Once the study is completed, the town can apply for another grant for final design and construction. And the typical duration for that process from grant award through the completion of construction is usually estimated by VTrans at about 4 years. So it does move kind of slow. It's dependent on environmental reviews, permitting, and right-of-way acquisition. So that I just want to stress that, some people are unsure about when construction is going to happen. There will be no construction as part of this project. This is just a study. And if the town does choose to move forward with any sort of construction project, it wouldn't actually go into construction for a few years. We have seen it move as quickly as about 2 years, and we've also seen it take more than 10 years. Public input is a vital part of these studies. There are a total of 3 public meetings, as I mentioned, and we are going to have a couple surveys available, online surveys. The most successful projects are those that have the support of the community. And so we want to ensure that we reach as many community members as possible to obtain feedback. So we did develop a very short survey to get some feedback. We understand that not everybody can attend these meetings. And so if folks are watching the meeting on video after it's live, they can go on to this link and take the survey. And anybody watching tonight live or at the meeting physically can also jump on and take this survey after the meeting is over. We'll keep this survey up for about 2 weeks just to collect some input from the public on what they potential concerns and issues are for this study area. So I'm going to provide that link to Bill, and he can hopefully get it up on the town's website tomorrow so that it can be available to everybody. So because the main purpose of this meeting is to collect public input, I'm going to stop there and see if there's any input.
Hi, I have a question. You talked about foot traffic there, and that there was quite a bit of it. I live up there. And my eyesight's pretty good, and I go up and down through there probably at least 5 times a day. I don't see any foot traffic.
And I can say that when I was out there doing our site visit a few weeks ago, I didn't see anybody actively walking through there either, but there is a footpath. So there is actually a path that's worn into the grass. Apparently that's been there for quite some time now. So it does look like people are walking through there.
So I'd like to request the 2-year plan.
JP, your observations, please, because you were the one who got us moving forward on this.
This is called JP's sidewalk.
Indeed.
After all.
So, yeah, no, I was serious about that. I'd like to get on the 2-year plan, not the 10-year plan.
Right.
So
Go ahead.
how do we do that?
So the 2-year project that I had was actually in Rutland City, so very close neighbor of yours. And the key to it is that the town is able to, the municipality is able to help move the project along. So the sticking points usually are the environmental review through the federal highway. So that takes some time. We have actually been seeing it take about a year right now. That time increases when we get into historic properties. So hopefully we don't get into much of that. And, if we can encourage V-Trans to keep that moving along, because they review and then it goes off to federal highway to review. The other part of this that takes a long time is right-of-way. And that is where Rutland City was able to move very quickly through. They put a lot of effort into getting their easements signed. The project that I talked about that took over 10 years is actually in construction right now.
Okay, we don't want to talk about we don't want to talk about a 10-year project. We don't even need to know about
that one got stuck in right-of-way. So that's right-of-way can be very challenging because that one did get stuck in right-of-way for a very long time.
Yeah. Well, I think this is the state right-of-way. So that should simplify things.
Matter of if we need to get any additional easements outside of the existing right-of-way. If you can stay within the existing right-of-way, that definitely speeds things along.
Okay. Well, anything you can do to help us stay on the 2-year plan would be much appreciated.
We will definitely have that as a criteria in our alternatives evaluation.
So I got a question, Chrissy. My name's Joe DiNardo. I'm not at the meeting, but who contacts the state of Vermont AOT and asks them about the right of way and whether we can put a sidewalk in there? Because to me, that's like the first thing you got to do. If they say no, we can study this till my cows come back to the farm and we aren't building the road or a sidewalk. So would that be appropriate to talk to them right off?
Yeah, so part of this study will be involving the district because it is within the state right of way. So we'll be talking with them and seeing what their constraints are on what we can do here.
Okay.
So we'll handle all
because they're
that.
going to hold. Yeah, they're holding the keys to the whole project. If they tell us we can't put a sidewalk in their right of way, then this is over with.
Joe, I think that they told us that we could, and this is how we had to go about it. So that's how we ended up here.
Yeah.
With the grants and stuff like that.
Okay. I mean, you know that, JP, as well as I do. You said that because it's in the state highway that it might be a better deal. And knowing state government and some of the things they ask for and some of the things they do, I don't tend to agree with that. But that, as long as we can get them on board, then we could probably make the 2-year project work.
Great.
Don, you had a question or a comment?
Well, I had a question. My comment goes along with what Joe's saying. I mean, if the state is going to approve of this project, then it's got to move forward as quickly as they can. And I wouldn't think that it couldn't happen within 2 years. I mean, they like pedestrian walkways, they like sidewalks, they like improving the safety for people. So I don't see any reason why they wouldn't facilitate this project as much as they could. That's number one. Number two, that second map on the right-hand side that you showed, Chrissy, I need a little clarification as to, how we get designated in a downtown area. I mean, this isn't downtown, this is uptown, this is rural. I mean, once you leave the city, we're in a rural area. Because
Yeah, so this is something the state did in the past couple of years. They came out with this new urban soil background area. And mostly what they did, they didn't actually go around and test any soil. So they have no idea if it's actually contaminated or not. But they looked at areas that had high traffic, tends to be downtown areas. It's in almost every village center in the state. And basically what they're saying is that emissions from the cars and all the vehicles are getting into the soil and contaminating it.
Well, there's another reason why if the state is going to approve of this thing, then that would fall under the state's responsibility, wouldn't it? If it's in there right away.
So what they'll do, if they allow you to put a sidewalk here, the town would own the sidewalk and be responsible for the construction and maintenance of it. They'll give you a grant, you can apply for a grant to construct it, but it's all your responsibility. So they'll say it's not our responsibility because you're the one who has to put a sidewalk here.
So it's presumed that the vehicular traffic that's supposedly causing the environmental concerns in this urban area, those vehicles are not going to be on the sidewalk, right?
They shouldn't be.
Then, okay, well, I just don't understand how, you were talking about mitigation of soils and so forth. Most of the drainage there goes right into East Creek. All the drainage from the highway goes into East.
This soils thing is still fairly new. And it's definitely, I see it having the potential to throw a wrench in some projects. So I do want to reach out to the waste management folks at the state and ask about this. If this was something, if we tested the soils and they're not contaminated, do they still have to be treated as such? But I think there's some discussion to be had around this.
Yeah, I believe so. Thank you, Chrissy.
So
You're
after the alternatives are presented and the town picks an alternative, what's the next step after that?
So once when we have the alternatives presentation, the goal of that presentation will be for the select board to endorse an alternative. So then we take the preferred alternative endorsed by the select board. We do a little bit more refining and development on that, and come up with some design considerations, just a little bit more detail, and prepare the draft report. And then we'll submit the draft report to the town and to VTrans. And after VTrans reviews, then we can have our final presentation. And then the final report will be completed. We'll make any revisions necessary and submit the final report. And then the final report, if you choose to move forward, if you choose to endorse a project that does include construction, then you can use that to apply for another grant. So the timing of this project would work out for you to apply for the bike ped grants next June, I believe they are.
Okay.
If you wanted.
Is that for engineering or straight to construction at that point?
At that point, you're actually doing both. It's a combined final design and construction grant. So they put it all together into a single grant.
So we could do it in 2 years, JP.
Sounds good.
Yeah, so we've been talking sidewalk, but what about bicycle traffic, which is what I think brought this to JP's attention in the first place?
So it's something we talked about in our kickoff meeting, and we've been using the word sidewalk, but what we talked about was, can we fit a wider sidewalk in there that would actually potentially be more of a shared use path? So the state has a minimum width of 8 feet for shared use path. So we just have to see what can we fit in there and what can we do to accommodate the bicycles. So that'll be part of our alternatives evaluation.
Okay, good. Any other select board questions or comments?
I have one, Mary.
Okay, Joe.
Recently, the car repair shop that we wanted to locate on the east side of Route 7 in this area, part of what the boondoggle with that was the recommendation or requirement of a sidewalk. And now we want to construct this. Is that something that would help us to move this along? Because now we're looking at building a sidewalk. They wanted a sidewalk for a business that wouldn't generate foot traffic necessarily. So I'm wondering if that's a plus in our corner that this was required.
Potentially we could, we could talk about that in the study, that a sidewalk here could help development opportunities. And so that might give you more points on a V-Trans grant application.
Because I think it was V-Trans, if I'm not mistaken, that said, or it was part of that Act 250 process, they wanted a sidewalk to extend from the city up along the west side, I think, of Route 7 there, or maybe the east side, or do something to access this new business. And that was one of the things that caused the business to pull up stakes and go somewhere else. So we're trying to fulfill what their requirement was.
Yeah, I think, I don't know off the top of my head what all the V-Trans criteria is for their grant evaluations, but that, the fact that it is the existing conditions are a negative to, future development, that might rank you a little bit higher.
Good.
Well, I
Good
would
point,
think-
Joe.
I would think it would rank us tremendously higher if they come in with a recommendation that we build a sidewalk and they deny a business the right to go there because we don't have a sidewalk and now we're applying to put one in. I don't know how they can possibly say no. It sounds like it would be a circular argument if they did say no.
Well, we're not sure which branch of, whether it was V-Trans or the Act 250 folks
Okay.
themselves who had the sidewalk requirement. And I frankly don't remember. So I do remember the problem. So we have our department.
What was the same problem we ran in with Harbor Freight? Remember?
Yeah.
They wanted a sidewalk down there, and that almost cost us that business until one of the local businesses stepped up and helped out with that. So somebody keeps requesting these or requiring these sidewalks, and we need to get them on board that, hey, we're building a sidewalk now.
Yeah, well, this is not the first sidewalk we've built, and I think we continue to link up with other networks and businesses, and I think we're going in the right direction. So we've got department heads here. We've got Barbara Noyes Pulling. Any comments or questions from any of you folks for anything that you're seeing on this early stage of JP sidewalk? Okay. If not, any final words of wisdom for us, Chrissy?
Not really at this point. We'll jump in and start looking at alternatives. We'll share that with the committee as we move forward, just to make sure we're all headed in the right, in the same direction, and everybody's in agreement. And we'll look forward to seeing everybody in October for our second public meeting.
Okay, good. Well, thank you very much for your time and for walking us through the process. Bill, if you could send me the link to the Survey Monkey survey, I'll see if I can get it posted on Front Porch Forum too. So it's another group we can hear from. All right, so I'll entertain a motion to come out of the public hearing and back into our select board meeting.
So move.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. All in favor, please say aye.
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 And we are back in our regular select board meeting. All right, Barbara Noyes Pulling, Chair of our Planning Commission. Good evening.
Hi, good evening. Thanks. Just a couple of items. and they are both in regards to the proposed pocket park. And they really have more connection to the Regional Planning Commission than to the Town Planning Commission. The first is an agreement for the land survey. You should have in your packet a contract with Msk Engineering. This is on top of the work authorization we've already signed with them, but this is a more formal agreement.
This is item A under new business. It's to review for approval the agreement for professional services with MSK. We did earlier agree to accept MSK, and you authorized me to sign the short version pending receipt of the full, which is still labeled short form of agreement, except it isn't really.
That's not very short.
Not really.
Move to approve. Second.
Motion's made and seconded to approve. Does that motion include authorization to have me sign on behalf of the select board?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Any discussion? If not, all in favor of accepting the MSK long form, we'll call it, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
All right, the ayes have it, and I am signing.
Great.
Thank you for your work pulling this together, Barbara.
Sure. So I think we've got everything in place now for this survey to get done. And in addition to that, I'm going to be pulling together a group of historical stakeholders in mid-September. It's a rather large group. It'll include some of the companies that have done business in that area, GMP currently and Vermont Marble, and perhaps some others. It'll include some local historians and some history buffs, the Crown Point Road group, the Daughters of the American Revolution. And we've got, it looks like maybe 3 of the Abenaki, Mulhegan tribal members that want to be part of this as well. And as well, we've got a few of the neighbors. So what the point of that meeting will be is to narrow down what historical features we want to include in the pocket park there and how we want to include those. Is it just going to be signs, or is it going to be something a little more high tech and that? So once we do that, I anticipate at least 1, if not 2 public meetings just to go over what we found there and what we came up with earlier with the recreation stakeholders, and just run that by the town, and then compile that and get someone to put this all together and maybe put some price tags on this project.
Okay. And Green Mountain Power continues to partner with us on this?
So far, yes.
Good.
They haven't been part of the survey to date, but I think at some point we're going to have to pull them back in on that conversation.
Right. Okay. Questions or comments for our Planning Commission chair? Okay, if not, thank you very much, Barbara.
Okay,
appreciate your work. All right, Bill Sweet, Town Administrative Assistant to the Select Board.
Extra thing for.
Oh, extra. Thank you.
Yeah. We can, that's part of the public safety building meeting minutes, but that's the surveyor's estimates. So we have a few things to go over. They were under new business that are in the packet. Do you have any questions about them, or you just want to take them when they come up?
Well, I'm looking at B, which is board to review for approval, the grant award for the post road sidewalk.
Did that.
Okay, yeah, we did. So that goes back in the packet. 'cause
A,
we
B, and C are done.
All right. We are in. All right. Okay, why don't we take D?
Sure.
These are letters. This is an old agreement back in 2018 that we had.
Yep.
That the select board would provide coverage for under our League of Cities and Towns insurance policy for the fire districts in our town if they would cover the cost of it. And why don't you take it from there?
So there's 4 letters there to each of the fire districts that are part of our coverage. And we was looking through some of our records and found that only one payment on 2 different years had been received from one fire district. Turns out a different fire district paid them, they paid us. So it was a little unusual, but we sorted that out. So these letters represent, and they each have a corresponding invoice that represent the balance owed to us for the year since we had that meeting with them. A couple of them are fairly small, a couple of them are a little bigger.
Okay. So, well,
What
this
are
is
these
an amount.
numbers based on?
I'm sorry,
what are these
JP, what?
What are these numbers based on?
So we get each year when we get our policy renewal from VLCT, they send us a schedule of what our policy, what makes up our policy, charges to make up our policy is detailed, and it lists each fire district and their corresponding cost. So I went back to each of the policy renewal documents and pulled that from it.
Yep. Well, I would move that we write a letter to the fire districts and tell them that they need to pay that money, or otherwise they can go find coverage elsewhere.
Yep.
All right. So,
I believe Billy did that.
yep.
There's a cover letter for each fire district, isn't there?
Yeah, there's a letter
I
and
mean,
invoice
it's
for each.
an awful nice letter for not having been paid in some cases 2 to 3 years.
We can change the letter.
Well,
So this gives them 30 days, and I figure if they don't pay within 30 days, we can.
we'll do a JP letter after
We-
30
we can-
days. Yeah.
Yeah.
So are we
I mean,
okay to
this is-
sign this one for starters?
Move to approve.
Thank you.
I'll second the nice motion.
Motion's made to motion's made to sign the letters, and you can characterize it as you wish. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor, please say aye.
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 Anyone opposed? Okay, I'm signing them now. Sharon's about to. Yeah, and then we'll pass them to Don. And what's next?
Next is E. It's a letter to EAI Rutland.
Ah, yes, okay. So you have in your packet a letter to the BAI Inc., which concerns recurring problems at the Diamond Run Mall. And it is inviting the management to come to our next select board meeting on Thursday, August 31st. And it includes the police report showing some of the difficulties we've experienced there. It shows an online or text message posting, which shows the activity inside, and then some interior shots, which, oh golly, looks like a skate park inside.
Yep.
I will also say that as a result of our comments at the last meeting, the president of Castleton University has been in touch with me, would very much like to attend the meeting on August 31st because they are tenants up there in the back part at Spartan Arena. And so Castleton University is very concerned about here. And I'll be having a few more conversations, or another conversation with, it's Jonathan Spiro at Castleton U. So we've gotten attention now of some of the folks who are here, and of course our police department, our fire department are concerned. What is your pleasure with the letter?
It's too nice.
I will say one thing, these folks are less than forthcoming with us on everything to do with that place. They have been nothing but a pain.
Yeah, and they blew the last meeting off. I've gotten complaints from car dealers. They're having an awful time since that mall. And it's not rocket science to secure the entrances in and out of that mall. And anything, you know, they can bolt on gates, steel gates. It'll put an end to it. We got to get them to move on it.
I've wondered,
Problem,
Since-
JP, would be the tenant, which would be Cass State College, would not have access to their building. So we have to do New Jersey barricades or something so they could at least get to their building and shut off the rest of the mall.
Right, right.
Nowhere in New Jersey
but
barricade.
they,
Well, I don't.
add,
Cement block.
what's Castleton's general use of that when it's not, I mean, when it's not a skating rink, do they use it every day? Is it open every?
So it's, I think they have a workout center.
They have a health center there,
They have
yeah,
an Indoor,
So it's used on a daily basis?
yeah.
Right.
Well, that is a problem then.
because of the vehicular traffic that's going around the back of the thing, they're dumping garbage out there now in the factory. Got needles out there. It's just any place they can get out of sight and not be seen. They're not doing anything good. That's what they're hanging out on the north end, or excuse me, the south end where Sears used to be. They park all the cars there. I haven't been up there late at night. There's trash everywhere.
Well,
Doors open. There's no way to secure them at this point in time.
I don't,
Welder shop.
I don't mean to be, much of a spendthrift on this because it's not my money, but I'll tell you. That mall originally, when it was proposed as a $30 million project.
Mhm.
Now it's called the American Wasteland Skate Park. And they've scribbled signs all over the inside of it that say that. But the fact of the matter is that no matter what is done with that property, it is a valuable piece of property to the owner. And it certainly wouldn't be asking too much to have a gate put in that has a remote access that Castleton College can press a button and the gate can open and shut. I mean, if individual property owners can afford to put that on their properties, fairly expensive properties here and there and everywhere, then I'm sure a $30 million project wouldn't be too much to ask to have that put there, especially when we don't know, nor have we been told what the time frame is on the future development of that property. And we've been asking
3
Over.
years.
over and over and over
For
for 2
3
years. So
3 years.
I think it's about time to demand that access be shut off and that somehow,
Check with the fire department chief to see, as far as firefighting, if it would affect them, the fire department in some way, with the other building that Cass State College has up there.
right, if a gate is put in that has remote access, then the fire department can be given the code and they simply go up. It can be done by remote control or it can be done by a button switch. There's a lot of other ways it can be done, short of having an actual padlock that you have to unlock. I mean, that's first generation, but there's more digital controlled gates that can be put in there. But I think we've got to shut the access off and make it more difficult for ne'er-do-wells to be getting up in there, or anyone else that doesn't have a specific need to be there.
I know there's a lot of walkers that go up there in the morning, but I can send them to Northwood Park.
Well, I've done both, and it's a little easier to get over across the valley rather than way up to Northwood. So some of us on the south end, you know. Anyway, your point is well taken. I'm not sure. We've got to check with our fire chief. We've got to check with our police chief. We certainly have to have our conversation with Castleton University about what it is they feel would help secure the area. I'm back to the big point of this letter, I think, was to alert BAI to the problems, to the photos, to the texts, and also to invite them to our next select board meeting. And yeah, I suppose we could do a harsher letter, but can we just get this one out so they are aware that we want to talk with them?
Well, didn't we invite them once before and they were a no-show?
Well, they came, yes, I mean, there have been more than one occasion they were a no-show. We now have some more information and we now have an ally. So.
Gotcha.
Mary, is there any legal action we can take against them to require them to secure that and do something? I mean, right now it's just been between us and them, and our good-natured select board here has given them enough rope, and they haven't hung themselves yet. So I think maybe we need to do something harsher, like, I don't know, whatever legal action we can take to make them do something. I'm not sure what.
Well, I want to pull the old Act 250 permit for one thing. All right. I think we sort of, went along with an amendment to it, but I'd like to revisit that. So from the town's point of view, that's one thing I would do. I suspect that Castleton University, I don't want to speak for them, but they may have some lease requirements that may or may not be met. And they could be an ally on this with them.
Do they lease that building or do they own that building outright? I think the skating rink is a separate entity and it's not part of the mall. I don't know about the land it's on, but I thought that building was built separately from the mall.
Well, I guess that would be another question that we have to have answered.
Okay. Because in that original Act 250 document, I do believe they were required to have security there. Now, was that only when it was operating as a mall, or is it as long as they own the property? I mean, we may be missing the boat here. They may be required to have somebody there at least part of the time or all of the time to make sure that place is secure.
Joe, I was part of the group that created the document that they had to sign that was part of the security agreement for that original mall. And they came to the board subsequently when they started losing tenants and things started to go downhill. They came to the board and cried that it was costing them too much money for law enforcement security. And they asked the board to change that document, and the board approved the change to the document. So you're right that they definitely were required to have it. And it wasn't just while the mall was in operation, it was 24-hour security. So, but
that may be something we can hold them to and do whatever. I don't know, but this is an awful drain on our police department.
Joe, we rescinded that document by vote of the board at a subsequent time. I wasn't in favor of it, but it happened. So,
but I think in later years, Don, because this has come before the board is in the last few years I've been on the board, and I do believe they were still required to have some kind of security. I think these are some avenues we really need to pursue, because this is an unfair drain on our police department when they could be doing something a whole lot more constructive than constantly being down there chasing these people out that have no other things to do other than annoy the rest of the world.
well, I agree with you 100%. And I think Mary's got the solution. You go back to the Act 250 permit, you find the security agreement. And when they come in here, we just put that in front of them and say, this thing has got to be put back in place. Simple as that. That was part of their original approval, and it was done for good reason. The reason that you're talking about. That
Yeah.
we knew at the time that we approved that mall that if we didn't put that kind of language in there, and it involved not only the security, that was the agreement that required them to maintain the parking lots, to keep them striped, to keep any planters in place, to keep the paint and the outward appearances of the mall, security lighting in place, and law enforcement security 24/7. And they had to sign it in order to get their Act 250 permit.
Well, the writing on the side of the building right now is not too sweet.
I didn't hear that, Ed.
The writing they have on the side of the building right now is not very nice.
Okay. So we will invite the BAI folks to our select board meeting on the 31st of August. Do we send them a letter?
Yeah, Mary, maybe we send them a letter, registered mail or something, so that we know they got it, because I think there's been correspondence that goes back to other stuff, and oh geez, we didn't get them, went to the wrong address, on and on and on.
Yeah, that's kind of
Well, the
convenient.
usual thing that I suggest folks do when they're doing something like this is to send a letter, certified mail return receipt requested, and at the same time, send the same letter to the same address, first class mail. And if the first class doesn't get returned, chances are very good they've gotten it, whether they sign the green card or not.
That's how I've done it. I've done it that way in the past.
I'm all in favor of that.
Okay, so the letter is here. I'm still looking for a motion to sign it and get it sent out.
So moved.
This is I'll second it.
Motion's
You're
made
talking
and
about
seconded.
number E. This is our letter, right?
That is correct.
Yes.
Okay, so motion's been made and seconded. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye. Opposed? Okay, motion carries. So I'm circulating the letter here, and it will be here for whoever else wishes to sign it. All right, Bill, what else do we have?
I'd like to add, Mary, to that, just to the discussion that we've done this in the past, and it seems that when we have representatives here, that they're not representatives that have any authority.
Well,
So,
I guess we're going to find that out too, and that's a perfectly good question to put to them. What kind of authority do they have to
Right.
speak on behalf? Go ahead, Bill.
F and G are for the personnel committee meeting minutes. And then there's a couple things on the desks that are pretty quick and easy. The meeting schedule and agenda items are there. I didn't get them in the packet, but they thought that was big enough, so they're on the desks.
Thank you.
I will not be here this Friday. Our oldest daughter's going to college, and we're bringing her. So, yep. So I won't be here Friday, but every other day. There's a letter from a resident about the Route 7 traffic sent to the board. So just a hard copy for you. And then as we typically have done in the past, when a business comes into town, we typically send them a welcome letter, and we have one that came into town a couple months ago. So it's Exotica Flowers on not Business Report, but Route 4 East, right next to the Bridge Housing Project. They're right there by Gleason Road.
Okay.
So there's a letter to them.
I don't know. Do we used to do motion to sign the letter, or just stick it in the packet and we sign it
It's
when
got
we have?
signed, but
Okay,
either way is fine.
all right. I'm signing it now.
Okay. So last couple things. The countertops for the clerk's office are done. They'll be back here on Thursday and be reinstalled. So they've been laminated, so they'll be much sturdier now and won't be all dinged up and damaged. So the only other thing left are some of the meeting minutes, and we do have Mr. Ricard here. He was invited by the building committee to come to the meeting tonight. So
He's been very patient.
he has
so
been very patient. He's a patient guy. Yes.
Maybe we're encouraging him to run for select board in his town.
No.
Well, I tried.
He heard enough here tonight.
So that's everything I have.
All right. Okay, we're almost to the meeting updates. John Paul Fignan, Health Officer, do you have anything for us?
Nothing at this time.
Okay, thank you. So we're into committee meeting updates and,
Are you good with me? Or are you doing me?
pardon?
Are you good with me or anything else?
Well, you're going to walk us through some of these.
I
maybe.
probably can. Yes.
All right. So which one should we start with to listen to?
Well, we can start with building. 'Cause we
Okay,
can
building.
let Dave off the hook.
And I think the minutes are in there. Building committee members, Don Chaffee and Joe DiNardo. Either of you want to take it or shall we let Bill?
No, it's, it's pretty self-explanatory. I mean, you don't want to just read the report, and we have it in front of us. So it was a really good meeting. I think the biggest part of the meeting, Dave is here and he's been patient. And I think we probably should take that up. And he's provided us a quote on the purifiers. And I think probably we'd let him explain his quote. JP, you had a question on those way back when. So I think the clarification that Dave would add may answer your questions. If you don't mind, if Dave.
Okay,
Here.
this is item number 1 in the building committee report, and item F, a recommendation will be made to the full board to accept the quote and purchase 6 units with the funds to be taken from ARPA funds once they are received. And we learned that we do have the ARPA funds. So this, the quote is 6 units for a total of $9,000. And there was a second quote from a different vendor. So, but why don't we have Mr. Ricard, and you're from Eris?
I am. Yes.
Okay, why don't you tell us,
Join Bill, so you'll be
Yeah.
on the speaker, Dave, please.
tell us what we should be purchasing and why.
So the second quote is also from a company. It's our sister company. We actually have both those products. However, the product that we proposed has Active Pure, which goes out and actively kills bacteria, mold, mildew, and viruses in the air and on surfaces without it ever passing through the machine. And on top of that, it has a better than HEPA filtration system, which filters down to 0.1 microns at a 99.97%. So HEPA filters to 0.3 at a 99.97%. So either machine we could provide. However, the proper machine for this issue would be one with the better than HEPA filtration, which is also when the state was putting all their mandates out last year for schools and different things. That was one of the contingencies that had to have at least a MERV 13 or a HEPA filter on the systems.
So I didn't see anywhere in any of the paperwork where there was a discount to the town. Are we getting a
There is- so
discount
those-
for the town?
Those machines normally cost $2,500. So I gave the discount just for you, JP.
All right.
As long as JP pays the bill? is that
JP can
the-
pay it. I don't care who
Okay.
pays it.
We're gonna put that on the sidewalk project.
So my question is, are these fully portable? So could we take them out of here and use them in any other building that may have an issue? in the
Yes
future?
and no.
Okay,
And I say that because they are very portable. However, when you remove them, you now have removed your purification, right? So if you remove it, then it's no longer creating active pure to protect the environment. It's no longer filtering the air that's coming through it. So when you put it back in the room, is now it has to start back from square one.
okay. But it would be usable, for example, if we had a mold problem at McKinley Fire Station. We could put a couple of filters up there. They'd have to come up to speed, purify that air. If we brought them back here, it would be a while before the air.
So
Here
that would
was
depend
clean.
on, my recommendation for that would depend on which part of the station you're working on.
Mhm.
If you're in the bays, we have different machines that would be better for because you don't have the filtration,
Okay,
because the bays would clog the filtration. If it's in the meeting rooms, then that's a little bit different story. Although McKinley meeting room can be pretty dusty too.
yeah.
there, but
and-
not quite like Center Islands, I guess.
Okay, other questions from select board members? Actually, we don't have a motion yet.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded to approve the purchase of 6 units from Eris units for a total price of $9,000 using
From ARPA funds.
ARPA funds. Yep. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor, please say aye.
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 Motion carries. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hopefully it was worth the wait.
Thanks,
Thanks,
Bennett.
Dave.
Okay, while we're on building committee,
Yep.
are there any other action items?
Yeah, I think I'd like to discuss number
Yes.
2 because
Okay.
I didn't recall that the discussion went the way it was described in here, but that's all right.
Item 2 is the War Memorial Project, front
Right.
of the town hall.
When, Joe, if you recall, when we had that discussion, I mentioned that I thought it was a little much for the building committee, and you reminded us that it was actually established way back when as an ad hoc committee. I had talked to Sharon a couple of times about this, and I said that based on her service to the veterans in the community and my status as the only veteran on the board, that I thought she and I would be a great partner group to chair the ad hoc committee. And she said she'd love to work with me on it or have me work with her on it, either way, and co-chair the committee. So I don't know how it got put into the minutes that the committee, establishing a committee with Sharon Russell as the chair. If she wants to chair it, she's more than welcome, but we had discussed that we would try to do this together.
Yeah, that's fine with me.
All
So,
right,
I don't, whatever, Madam Chair, that would be your call in any case, I would imagine.
well, thanks for giving it back to me, Don. I think Dr. David Charnock was interested as well in serving on this committee, and Marty and Mary Wasserman. So
And Ed Squira,
we've got to talk, unless I haven't talked with Ed, if you have.
talked with Ed,
Good.
and I've also,
Who is the other, someone else?
Freese, Jim Freese.
Jim
said he
Freeze?
would.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'd entertain a motion to set up an ad hoc committee for the purpose of the War Memorial Project in front of the town hall with Don and Sharon chairing.
So move. Second.
Motion's made. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye. Okay, motion carries. And I'll let you bring in the other names as we confirm and maybe set up your first meeting. Okay, any other action items from the building committee?
Yes.
All right,
We covered 3. 4 has a couple. We talked about the concrete work at the front and the back of the building. Don, did you want to cover that, or do you want me to?
Well, say again, Bill, I was,
Part 4, we talked about some of the projects here. There's a couple things. There's 2 things under 4 that we need to go over. One is part A, the concrete work.
go ahead.
Yeah, we had recommend, Bill has been trying to get somebody to do this work. And he has sent out letters of request and on and on and on and getting nowhere. And we have a price of $2,600 for somebody to come in and fix that damaged concrete at both entrances and make it more user friendly. And Don and I thought that we would recommend to the full board that we move forward with this. There's a couple of projects on here that we'll talk about that we're just not getting any response from people. And Bill is going through the effort of calling, sending letters, trying to get people to respond, and nobody gets back to him. So we would recommend that we have this company from, I believe it said Lowell, do the work and get it done.
Okay, so is that a motion to hire Ed Lowell or accept his quote of 2,600 to remove and replace the damaged concrete?
Also move.
Motion's made.
I'll
Is there a
second,
second? And
I'll
seconded.
second it. Yep.
Okay, thank you. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye. Motion carries. Okay, next action item.
I found another contractor out of actually about 2 miles away who is going to give us a quote on resealing the driveway. So we should be able to have that hopefully for the next building committee meeting.
Good.
I did reach out to Jim Manley. He has not called me back yet about the water line project here.
Okay.
And the Royal Group, we had requested a quote from them a while ago for some rekeying work at the interior doors here. It's valid through the end of this month, their quote.
Bill, do you have that number in front of you?
No, but it was about $1,000.
Yeah. And we would recommend, Mary, that we move forward with that. That'll just simplify some internal housekeeping stuff and make life a little easier with a master key system for the internal doors.
So is it the interior doors on this floor only, or are we talking downstairs?
Currently this floor only.
This floor only, okay.
Yep.
But it would be easily expandable when we added new doors downstairs to add on to it.
Is it going to be similar to just punching in a code?
No.
No, these are keys.
These are actually keys.
So
yeah, it's
each
keys for
office-
the 4 offices.
Yeah. So
Oh,
every
okay.
door has its own key right now. So there will be a master key that will open any of them,
Oh,
but we will still have, like, the listers still have a key for just their office
Okay.
and so on. But we'll have a master key that'll make it a little easier for some of the doors that don't need individual access.
okay, so Joe, can I treat your comments as a motion to approve rekeying
Yes, you may.
interior doors with the Royal Group at $1,000?
I will second that motion.
Motion's made and seconded. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye. If I get locked out, I'll come talk to you.
Mary, would it be
Just-
possible to use the ARPA funds on that?
We can take a look. I don't know. We'll take a look. Yeah, it's
I
there.
mean, we should if we could.
It'll be a few
could.
months before it's done and we get a bill anyway. So
We got time.
we got time.
Yeah.
Uh,
Okay.
Other topics, but no other action items.
All right. So, thank you, Building Committee. That was a good bit of work. The Public Safety Building, I think, who would like to report on it? We were all there, I think, so.
Nothing really new. Bill, do you have some information about surveyors possibly for us?
Yes, I just gave you all my copies, but
Okay.
yes.
Oh. I think that was the one thing that we had left, that we had moved forward with, wasn't it, after our meeting, was to
Yes.
get the property surveyed.
And Bill, in fact, reached out to 5 different surveyors, 3 of whom responded.
Bob Tinker came here.
Okay,
We found the parcel map and he said he'd give me a quote by this morning and I never got it.
okay. So Tinker Survey is, we haven't heard from. Mark Horsell quoted $3,100, and this is 8 weeks out. Vermont Survey Consultants quoted $2,400, 6 to 8 weeks. Action Survey, $2,000, but in the spring of 2022. Tinker, we haven't heard back from. James Montrone, there was no response. What's your pleasure?
I think we've got to get this done.
Yeah, I think
Who
we
was that
should
guy-
wait.
Who was the guy that we've used before in that pack, Mary?
Mark Corsell's
It
the one
was
that's done it
Mark
before.
Horsell.
Yeah,
Right.
I'd move to approve Mark Purcell.
Should Dave, just a point, maybe we ought to listen to see if Bob can do that sooner. Cause we're 2 months before you're going to do it. Maybe he could do it next week. I think we ought to wait.
But he didn't respond, right? Was this put out to
Yeah.
bid?
It was
We didn't-
individual phone calls by Bill.
Yeah.
Huh?
And Bob came here the other day and I told him I needed it. Bob
Well,
was
they're
here
best friends.
yesterday. I told him I needed the quote for tonight's meeting and he told me he would get it to me and I never got anything.
I mean, don't we want to go with the people that want the work? If he's too busy or something, I don't know. We want to move forward on this. You want to give Tinker a call tomorrow, Joe, and see?
Well, I could, but I don't think I should get in the middle of it since Bill's been doing it, but,
Right,
if-
right.
yeah, I just try to keep things, because sometimes that confuses things. I mean, it's up to the rest of you, but I just thought we ought to have all, I don't know. I would
You
just
know
thought maybe
something?
we could get it done sooner than 2 months.
You know what? I have to agree with JP. We had to take the ones that got back to us in the time they were supposed to and go from there. If we keep yanking around, we're still going to be yanking around a month from now.
Right.
Yeah, because we
So
want to,
I
don't
would-
forget, we need to line up, like an engineer to help us design the building, and we have to do all of those technical steps since we're spending public money. So the sooner we find out how the thing fits on the property, the quicker we can go to that next step of getting the other professionals on board.
Okay, I got two issues, and I agree with you, JP, but we got Vermont Survey Consultants is considerably less money than Mark Purcell. And he says 6 to 8 weeks, so I don't know whether that means 6 or 8. If it's 8, then it's the same, but if it's 6, then it's,
He said his schedule's pretty full, but he would do his best to move it around as much as he could to get it done as fast as he could.
okay. Then we have Mark Purcell who says 8 weeks out, and I don't know whether we'd want to negotiate with him and say, hey, look, can you speed it up at all?
And
What-
he's 3,100, so.
He's
So when I talked to each of them, they asked me the time frame, and I said basically we're talking this. We wanted this done, like yesterday. So I told them it was as soon as we possibly could, and that's what dates they gave me. So
that's 30% less money for Vermont Survey Consultants. So, I mean, and a survey is a survey is a survey. So,
Have you seen any of this other fellow?
So there's no motion pending.
Yeah, no,
Have you seen
Don,
their work?
if you prefer someone else and you can get them to do it sooner, I just thought that, we've used Mark before, maybe he'd get to us quicker, but if we can do it with someone else quicker, I'm good with that.
well, originally
Yeah, that might be-
I was in favor of giving Mark Purcell a chance because he was on board before with us. And,
Right. Right.
Sharon asked if I'd seen Vermont Survey Consultants work. He's done 4 or 5 surveys that have come through the Planning Commission
Mhm.
for subdivisions, and they've sailed through with no issues.
All right, why don't we go with him, Don? I'd move to approve
I do
him.
too.
They are
Yeah,
a town
I'll-
business
I'll
also.
second that,
Okay,
JP.
so motion is made for Vermont Survey Consultants at 2,400, 6 to 8 weeks, seconded by Sharon. JP made the motion. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye. Okay, motion carries. Good. So we
Good
hired
deal.
ourselves a,
Bill, the other thing we have to do to keep this ball rolling,
don't
Bill,
hearing
if you could
good.
start
Yeah.
casting a net out for architects, for fire
Is that
departments, things like that. Because we're gonna
Gotta
need some
hate
help
me.
in pulling together our ideas and putting them down on paper, what we want.
JP, at the meeting, JP, that we met at the station, you were going to look into the, sprinkler tank, needs. Did you get a chance
Yes.
to do that?
No, Dell stepped up and took that over from me, Joe.
Okay.
and Dell is nodding. Should we leave that to the next public
Yeah.
safety building meeting? Okay.
Yes.
I thought we're talking about the safety building.
Well,
Yeah,
we
we're
should
talking-
probably discuss it at the meeting.
Anybody else want JP's candy? Because he's not here.
Um,
JP, your
JP.
candy's good.
You should know Sharon's been into,
So
Yeah.
have I, JP. They're
Yeah.
really good lemon head. Good stuff.
too bad you're not here. Um,
Because your candy's.
You don't
So,
want-
well, we've got a minute. Del, why don't you give us a quick, I know you've got your mouth full of probably the same kind of candy, but
I do. Of course, they were off today. I will be meeting with him tomorrow afternoon. I
okay.
told him what we wanted, what we needed, and he was gonna try to get that stuff together for us.
Okay, and who's the they? Who are you talking with?
I'm talking with Josh, somebody from the state of Vermont.
Josh
Okay.
Maxim.
That's
Okay, very good. Thank you. Anything else from the Public Safety Building Committee meeting? We do need to set up the next meeting.
Yep.
We
So-
had, so go that we should schedule a meeting to pull this stuff together.
Yeah. Okay. So watch for an attempt to herd the cats again so we can all get together and talk about this.
Didn't we got the survey, right? Of the,
Yeah, we
not
we
the
won't have
survey,
the
but we got
results for 2 months.
we got the plot plan or the,
So what I emailed out to everybody was not a survey specifically of our property, but basically the surrounding ones. So it kind of was by default, but it's not one of our property, but it has many landmarks and monuments and things like that to hopefully make this go quicker for people out there. And I did tell them like, we're going to want like, 4-foot stakes in the ground so we can see where these things are and look at this. So, yeah.
4-foot stakes?
Yeah.
My God, I'm only
Bill?
4'9.5".
Bill,
gonna stop
when,
eventually.
when,
Yes.
when this company that we're gonna hire does that, let me know where they're gonna come and see you or whatever, because I have that map that has all those reference points on there that Mrs. Baird gave us. And I think this is gonna help save a lot of time.
Well, we have that here at the office. It's filed in the office. So yeah.
Okay, the
We have
same
version
one
of
that I've been, okay, because I have that one she gave us that shows all of the monuments and where they're supposed to be.
Did you see the email I sent you either yesterday or today?
Probably not.
Okay.
Probably not, because if I did, I wouldn't be.
It's probably what you're talking about. So
I think it's the same one, Joe.
And just a
I
reminder,
probably
too,
missed it.
police and fire were looking for square footage. So we can map the buildings out when we have the survey.
And at
Okay.
some point, to JP's point, we have to decide if we're going to go with a hiring an architect like we did for Center, or if we're going to go with a design build. Two very different projects, and I think money-wise, there might be some savings in doing a design build. But
Yeah, but you know
I think
what,
that's
Joey?
a topic.
Well, I think that's a discussion for the next meeting after we get some of the
Right.
additional information in. Yeah, I don't
Right,
want to debate
exactly.
that
That's-
tonight.
No, that's why I say we need to do that before we try to start hiring somebody.
Okay. All right, I'm looking at our other committee meetings, intermunicipal. JP and I met with our city counterparts, Paul Clifford, former member of this board, Sharon Davis and Billy Gillum. And we discussed the possible safety improvements that could be made on Route 7, both south and north of the city. And I have not, the consensus from that meeting, and it was a motion by the city delegation to have the two communities go back to their boards and see if the communities would be willing to vote to ask the V-Trans to reduce the speed to 35 miles an hour. And JP can help me where the exact landmarks are. Coming from the south, I think the present speed limit
Commencing
just
at
coming
the
into
Han-
town. Yeah, go ahead.
At the Hannaford's, at the Holiday Inn Mall light, from there north would be 35 through the city, and 35 would be maintained until after the East Pittsford Road. Up to the
Okay.
Oh,
post
good.
road.
I'm glad you said that because I had originally thought it was Post Road, but remember
You did talk about it.
we
Yeah.
discussed that, and I
Yeah.
think going all the way to East Pittsford Road would be the smart move because,
Yeah.
well, because of that intersection.
Okay.
And it
Yeah,
gives
people
plenty of people it gives people plenty of time to adjust.
Yeah.
The city likes it because it obviously will slow them down before they get into the city.
Right. So
It won't do any. I don't want to be the negative person on this, and this is no disrespect to the police departments in the town or the city, but the motoring public doesn't really care about the speed limits, and they're not going to slow down, and they're not. You can make that speed limit 0 down through there, and they're still going to drive 50. And it's the same way on North Grove Street and anywhere else. If we're going to do any of this, and I don't want to put any credibility to the letter that was sent to us, where the individual that wrote that says that communities would artificially lower speed limits so they can write more tickets and buffer their treasuries or their coffers of money, because we all know that that's not true. And I'm all in favor of any speed changes, but there has to be a police presence, and the city has to step up. I drive Route 7 from McKinley Avenue into the city almost every day, and I never see any radar or speed enforcement. And one is not going to work without the other. And today on North Grove Street, I had a car doing probably in excess of 60 miles an hour go down here by the farm, and the speed limit's 35. So you got to have both ends of this, or it's just not going to work, because I've come to the conclusion as I get older that the motoring public does not really care about speed limits. They think those are a suggestion and not the law of the road. And until we do both parts of this, traffic is not going to slow down. Today's motorist just doesn't care. They are all about themselves.
When we met with the city, we also discussed enforcement. Okay. And we also discussed the number of crosswalks and whether it would be appropriate to add more. And we also discussed the timing of the lights, because JP pointed out that the lights are set for a motoring public that's much higher rate of speed than what the speed limit signs show. So this was not in isolation, but so I wanted you to know that we did talk about all of those things, right?
Yes, and I know that, Mary. And we talked about it in March at our select board meeting, how the town was going to proceed going forward with our PD and our patrol policy and stuff. And there have been some extenuating circumstances that none of us anticipated. The issues at the Green Mountain Plaza and everything that's been going on down there, that's taken a lot of their time. But at some point, we're going to have to put some teeth into this, and we're going to have to do something, because it's just lip service is not going to solve the problem. And I understand we have a limited staff, but it's just, when those cars are on Grove Street, I can guarantee you the speed drops by 10 to 15 miles an hour. And
Joe, let me interrupt again to tell you that the police committee met a week and a half ago with the chief and the deputy chief, and we requested more police presence. Shortly thereafter, on, I think it was North Grove Street, one of my Rotarian colleagues was coming down rather quickly to a morning meeting. Blue lights were flashed and the police presence was noted there. And she mentioned it to all of the other people in the Rotary meeting. And I've seen them now 3 times down on Creek Road. So I don't know about other parts of town, but I do know that the police are getting out of there. They heard us, Joe. We talked about this and they heard us, and I'm seeing better police presence out there. So I wouldn't write them off just yet. I think they're out there now much more than as much perhaps as we were hoping.
I don't want to prolong the discussion that much, but I agree with 100% with every single thing that Joe said about the two facets of this particular, and I mentioned it to JP, that we certainly could use him out here. And as soon as he's able to, I'm sure he will, because I know that he enjoys doing it. He does it well. I mean, he's a really efficient patrol officer in that respect. But we need more presence, and we may need, because of the visibility factor that we're looking for with our police force when we get our personnel added, patrolling in the neighborhoods can work along with radar. But in addition to that, we may need to consider once again a combination effort where we do hire a sheriff exclusively for radar patrolling. And that could be rotated around the community. I'd leave that decision to the police chief to see if that would work. But we definitely need more visibility out there, because what Joe says is right. You can lower that speed limit, and I wonder, did the committee discuss overhead crossings to any degree?
Very briefly to discuss how cost prohibitive they could be.
Well,
Well, let me finish.
Yeah.
The reality is the 3 accidents that were down on South Main Street were pedestrians, at least 2 of whom were under the influence, who probably would not have used an overhead pass given the circumstances of what was going on. So,
Nor
falling off.
Yeah,
possibly.
Nor would a speed limit change probably have affected that.
And that's entirely possible.
But I agree with you. I agree with the committee's recommendation and concurrence with the city, because it makes entirely good sense, especially on routes 4 and 7, to have consistent speed limits with the city. We're not out in the cornfields yet. I mean, we're still in a fairly
Speak for
congested area.
yourself.
Huh?
Speak for yourself.
Yeah. We're not
Corn's
making
doing
your
well.
speed limit up there any less.
There's Joe's comment to not seeing us on the road. The city police has got to be down 8 or 10 officers right now. They're running 2-man shifts. They're just answering call to call to call. They don't have time to run radar at this point. There's just not enough policemen at the current time in the city or in the state of Vermont or in the United States at this point in time to take care of the problems that have been caused from the cutbacks, or what we're doing is wrong in some way. We've been labeled as a bunch of things that I don't believe are true. And there's nobody who wants to do this job at this point in time. And that's just the fact of the matter. Nobody wants to talk about it or say about it. They want to say because we're all systemically racist or something, but that is not what we are.
No. And when I look at your
So
reports,
I would also point out that we're 1 officer down in our own department, and we're going to not lose, but Angie will be going back to the school shortly. So that's going to mean fewer people out on patrol. So.
right. And when I look at your reports every week, Ed, which I do, and I look at them carefully, I certainly don't see a whole mess of free time out there to do much radar patrolling. When you have the amount of calls that you have to deal with and the paperwork that you have to do with them and the follow-up, that's why I say that we need more personnel one way or another. And in past years, when we hired the sheriff's department, we pretty much covered the cost of the sheriff's department with the radar patrolling because they were very efficient. And in response,
Actually, it was, the city was mismanaging how they signed the paperwork. The town ended up paying back thousands of dollars to the city because they wrote down Rutland instead of
right.
town of Rutland or city of Rutland. So the town had to pay those people back. So they weren't quite as efficient as they thought they were. Because I remember being part of that and having to deal with it because I worked for the other department at the time.
Yeah.
I do remember. Yes.
Yep.
Okay, so I guess your intermunicipal committee is looking for a motion to approve the 35 miles an hour speed limit as described by JP. Is that a motion, JP?
Yes.
I'll make.
Okay, motion's made. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Seconded by Sharon. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor, please say aye.
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 Motion's approved. Okay. Next committee report is technology
Building technology.
personnel.
No, building technology is one. We did that one.
Oh, okay. All right, you've got that. So personnel committee.
So the
Let's-
personnel committee met. You should have all gotten a copy of the minutes of the meeting. The action, and there's a lot of stuff listed on that we need to discuss at the committee level. Really, we just wanted the board to be aware that we're going to be talking about these things. But as far as an action item, I, on behalf of the committee and the other two board members that there, offered Walter Tripp an apology because, as you know, it came to my attention that Mr. Tripp had been authorized a raise back in July of 18, and it was never put into effect. There's really no explanation for why, but Carrie was good enough to be able to run the figures and what that money comes to, and the committee also approved 6% interest on that money for Walt because he's a very dedicated town employee, and that, you know, we apologize that this had happened to him. So I would make a motion that we reimburse Mr. Tripp the amount of the money. Billy has the exact figure with interest at 6%.
Okay. The amount is in the minutes, so.
I would leave it right there and second the motion.
Okay. Motion's made and seconded to approve the amount in the minutes plus 6%. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor, please say aye.
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 Okay, thank you. And thanks for your work on that, people on the personnel committee. Appreciate it. Do you have any other action items from personnel?
We don't have any other action items.
Yeah, we do,
that-
JP.
Yeah.
How about the
Sorry,
one with
go
the
ahead.
police department on the new hire?
Well, oh, that's right. So a request was made to make an accommodation. Then the personnel committee recommends the board decline that request. It's basically it would open up a Pandora's box if we strayed from the requirements of our insurance company as to who is on our policy and who is not on our policy.
Okay. So, well, thank you for looking into that. So there will be no, do you want to make a motion to decline or just not take any action?
I don't think we need to take any action. We can't accommodate the request.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Any other action?
5 and 6 from personnel committee are related to new business.
Okay, so new business F is the board to discuss the personnel policy and who should be signing it. Would like to speak to this. The personnel committee believed there was a draft, or no, the existing personnel policy was in
Yes.
our packet.
Correct.
Okay,
Right. Well, I thought the board had previously decided that everybody who gets a paycheck from the town should just sign an acknowledgement they've received a copy of the personnel policy.
That's what I thought too.
yeah. Well, we'll treat that as a motion, as a reminder. How's that? That people who
Okay.
receive a paycheck from the town will be asked to sign acknowledging they have received a copy of the town's personnel policy. Okay, and
That
seconded by Sharon?
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. Any
And
further
yeah.
discussion?
Yeah, but it's clearly, as was discussed at the meeting, it's clearly understood that there are elected officials and others that portions of which the personnel policy does not apply, but there are other portions that do apply. So if it's read and understood, then you comply with those things that you are supposed to comply with. That's all it
Right.
is. I mean, but, so
It's the best way to put it.
an elected official may not take the position that they don't have to comply with anything simply because they're elected, because that's not the case. They have to comply with those things that are required of them as a paid employee of the town. So
Okay.
I don't have a problem with it. It's good policy.
Any further discussion? If not, all in favor of the motion, please say aye.
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 Aye. Okay.
I might also add that in the trip matter, that a lot of kudos should go to our town clerk treasurer, Carrie
Yes.
Clark. She did a lot of work. It took a lot of her time digging back that many years to find those hours.
Yes,
So,
thank you.
I'd like to go back to the police committee real quick, because I look at Ed sitting there and I can see, give me a minute. He isn't comfortable with what he's hearing, and I frankly don't blame him. Police in this country right now I'd rather be a murderer than be a police officer, to make it quite honest, because there's no respect. So, I give all the respect in the world for anybody that's in the police. Yes, there was one bad cop that made it bad for everybody, but I don't think people should look at it that way. I think we should look at all the good cops that have done a hell of a good job, that are still out there protecting us and trying to do speed control when they can. I watch them sit, and there can be a cruiser in my yard and they'll go 90 down the East Pittsburgh. They don't give a rat's patoochie who's sitting there, because they know they'll go to court and the judge just might throw it out. So, I guess I'm pro the boys in blue. I completely support every single one of them. So I just needed to say that.
Thank you, Sharon. All right, also under new business, board to discuss succession planning and storage of department records. There's two loaded topics. Yes,
Where
we know
are we?
we should. I'm looking at new business. I'm looking at our agenda. I'm looking at item
well,
G.
are we done with committee reports?
Well, this
That's
was
part of it.
part of the personnel committee.
Oh.
Yep.
Okay. Anything that we need to do tonight on either of those issues?
No.
No.
Okay. On to transfer station committee.
So the only action item would be to approve adding a portable restroom. Dell's got that all squared away, and I think he estimated the cost to be maybe somewhere around $4,000. So I would move that we approve that.
I'll second that.
Motion is made and seconded to approve the installation of a portable restroom for $4,000. And did you say where the money's coming from?
Well, we didn't say, but I would say that would definitely come from ARPA funds.
If we can do ARPA, sure. If we can't, what's your,
You have the money in your budget?
I do not.
okay.
I do not.
Would that constitute a capital improvement? I think so. Seeing as
Yeah,
though
I agree.
the building was built without one.
Right. Why don't we say it's a capital improvement?
So
That'd be
we can tap our capital improvement fund if we can't do ARPA. So that's our two ways of financing.
If we can do ARPA, why not put a full-fledged toilet in there?
We can't.
Well,
Well,
because it's
that's another
considerably
hole.
more, and Dell doesn't think we need it.
What'd you say, JP?
I said it's considerably more money and Dell doesn't think we need it.
For 10 hours a week?
Yeah. Okay.
This is the kid that used to go in the backyard and go potty. So what do you expect?
We had a discussion
Any
about
further
that too.
discussion other than,
Please don't put that in the minutes of the meeting.
if not, you're ready to vote. All in favor of the motion, please say aye.
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 Your backyard is
Aye.
much bigger than my backyard.
Okay, so the motion
Not on Meadow
carries.
Street, it wasn't.
So,
Totally ignoring the background chatter. Is there any other
yeah, we had a
business
fairly,
from the transfer station committee?
we had a fairly extensive discussion of the zero sort
Mhm.
compactor issue, and Larry provided us with the figures that he's gotten from one of the vendors, which were fairly extensive, but not unexpected. So we decided, well, we asked him to get another bid from the other contractor in the area so that we have some competitive. And then we'll compare those. And what we also have to do in terms of deciding whether we want to go with zero sort, which most progressive communities have done, is decide what the savings would be on the other containers that we don't have, because we'll get a credit back for all of those other.
We own those.
Yeah, well, then we put them back in the system or repurpose them somehow or other.
They'll be Dell's outhouse.
Yeah, so, and also that I had a suggestion that we would poll the users of the transfer station, because those are our residents, to see what they think of this whole thing, because we'd have to, it would be nice if we knew that we had substantial support for going in that direction, because it is going to cost money no matter what it is, whether it's expensive or real expensive. The citizens need to know the cost in order to get the convenience of a zero sort system in their own homes, so that they could put that stuff in one container. And Larry also talked about the need for an additional personnel if we did this, because someone would have to be watching what went into that zero sort compactor to make sure.
Explain zero sort to me, Larry.
Zeros.
You don't separate the cardboard from the plastics. You put everything together. The board considered this 3 or 4 years ago. It might be longer than that, and elected not to go zero sort, which is because if you go zero sort, then you preclude any possibility of getting any kind of offset for materials. Right now, I think Dell will tell you he turned a profit on some stuff for the first time. And when I say turned a profit, he got some money back on some of the materials because it was separated. And if you watch the operation of the transfer station, there's a lot of people that like separating their stuff, and it's a value to the town because we can get money for those materials as those markets improve. If you zero sort, you have to pay to have it taken away. You're never going to get any money for it.
Okay.
There
well,
was.
I was going to say, I
there
don't
was
see
a
any
time
action
there-
item.
Yeah, we were told at one point that our system, although a little more work related,
Labor intensive.
is the better way to go.
Yeah,
because of the separation of the stuff in the market sometimes. But that's what we were told in the past.
and it's turning out to be true now.
Yeah.
Okay. So
Thank you.
Let's see what the results of the poll are.
Okay.
Well, we'll have to be perfectly frank with our customers, our citizens, when we approach this. But I really think we ought to have kind of a tacit approval or disapproval of the people that use the system, and some competitive pricing. And this
Just
doesn't have to
because
be.
you're too lazy to separate doesn't mean it's not a good system.
Okay, moving right along. I think that concludes our committee meeting updates. I'm going through we still have an executive session or for a personnel matter. Before we go into that, I would also request a executive session on pending legal matter. And let me do a quick update.
I have one item of new business, Mary.
Yes.
I would like the board, and I don't want a decision tonight, give us a chance to draw on it, but I'd like the board to consider a petition on the March ballot to allow retail sales of marijuana in the town of Rutland. I have done a little bit of background. Down in Massachusetts, the localities where these shops are located get upwards of 24% of the revenue from the store as taxes, local taxes. And we know that the city is actively going to be pursuing this, and I think we ought to see if that's not something we can't get. We probably have better locations in the city because they can be located on the outskirts of town. But in any event, I wanted the board to start thinking about that for our next meeting.
Okay, so I'll ask Bill to put it on our agenda for next meeting. Thank you, JP. And any information that you have that we should probably look into, that would be good.
Okay.
I've received 3 thank you notes here. One from Matthew Goulette, who received a Rutland Town scholarship. He is going to UVM in the fall. Another from Lucian Horrocks, who is going to Farmingdale State College in the professional pilot program. A thank you for the scholarship he received, and a 3rd thank you note from Devin Kibbe, who is headed to Northern Vermont University. So congratulations to all, and thank you for the thank you notes. I did sit in on a meeting with Mayor Allaire with the Evergreen Cemetery commissioners. They were, and of course, we did clarify that the cemetery does not lie within the town of Rutland, so we don't have any statutory responsibility. I was there merely as a courtesy and of course as interest because a number of our townspeople are buried there. And this is going to be something the city is going to have to work with Evergreen to determine how to support them because their funding is slowly diminishing, and it looks like they may not be able to continue beyond another year or so. So a heads up on that. Now, is there any other business before executive session?
No, but it's good news that the city is receiving pretty close to $4 million in ARPA funds. So hopefully maybe that money can be stretched into the Evergreen Cemetery.
Exercise paths and walking paths, there are quite a number of them there. So that would be a potential good use for that. Okay. So I will entertain a motion to go into executive session.
Yeah, could we have a 5-minute break?
A on a personnel matter and B on possible litigation.
So move.
Motion's made.
Second.
Seconded. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye. And motion carries. We'll go into executive session. We'll take a 5-minute break
Thank you.
first.